Hey guys, Virginia the Buckeye Gamer here, back with another topic video. Now, this one was more of a spur of the moment topic, something that I've been thinking about the last few days. Actually, it's been a little bit longer than that, but what I wanted to talk about in this video, and you guys feel free to share your opinions and your thoughts in the comments. I'm actually very interested as to what some of you have to say. I wanted to talk about accessibility options in video games and why they're extremely important, especially in the modern age of games where, so many people have access to them. See, I feel accessibility is very important because, especially players with disabilities, whether it be hearing impairments, vision impairments, or some type of physical disability, for them to be able to play is extremely important. So that way everybody can have access to the same games, whether it be shooter or racing or adventure games or something like that. Now the problem is I have my Switch Pro controller here. I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's say, maybe a blind person happens to see this, and depending on how blind they are, because blindness doesn't necessarily mean that you don't see anything. It's a broad spectrum. But, let's say maybe they can't tell exactly what buttons these are. You have A, B, X, Y. Maybe they can't quite see how to move the controller properly. I'm just going to use that as an example. What would be really nice for Nintendo to do, and I know Microsoft did this years ago with their I think it's called accessibility or adaptive controller or something like that. What Nintendo and Sony need to do is have something similar to that, where you can have, like this big, because the one that Xbox released was kind of like this big rectangular thing and had two large buttons, a D-pad, and a bunch of ports and switches that you can mess with. That's something I think Nintendo and Sony both need to come out with, and that way you can customize the buttons to your liking and what have you. For those who have issues playing otherwise. So, but there's also the fact that you can actually, a lot of modern games do nowadays, thankfully, do have accessibility options in their menu. So like you can change it, maybe to make the text larger if you have a hard time seeing, or maybe audio cues or something like that. Or, if you're deaf, you can have like custom vibrations for your controller. Like if you're playing a shooter or something and there's an enemy coming up behind you, you can't quite hear them, or anything like that. It definitely helps to have accessibility in those regards, which one game that I do point out a lot whenever I talk about accessibility in games is The Last of Us Part 2. That one, Naughty Dog did go above and beyond to give everybody access to that, and I commend them for it. Now, do they need to release The Last of Us Part 2 Director's Cut on the PS5? No. But I'm just saying, though, they went above and beyond to give so many people accessibility options, which is fantastic. But getting back to the adaptive controllers, like let's say maybe you have somebody, and I know a couple people personally, maybe they have a condition like cerebral palsy. They can't, control their movements, and, their arms don't want to work quite right. Definitely having adaptive controllers and buttons and everything that they can put wherever they need to, hook up however they want to for them to be able to play the game. That I think is really important too. So, like I said, Nintendo and Sony need to get on the ball and create some type of controller for that. Now, one thing I do think is pretty cool, I'm just going to get my actual Switch out of here and kind of show you. So let's say you take these Joy-Cons off. I'm just gonna, again, we're gonna kind of do a little demonstration. You can always play with the Joy-Cons in each hand. So if you have to, that's one thing that Nintendo did with these that I thought was pretty cool. You can sit them down however you want to, maybe sit them on your lap, or if you're in a chair, you can sit them on the arms of the chair. And then you can, push the buttons however you see fit, which is pretty cool. So again, And this works like even with people with arthritis, because I do have a little bit of arthritis in my wrist, actually in both wrists. So sometimes I have to hold the controller a certain way if I'm having flare-ups with it. And it definitely does help, with the pain. And I've, learned different techniques as to how to control the game better. Whereas if I hold it normally, then it works just fine that way too. But you definitely can get a little creative with the Joy-Cons. But again, I think a setup like Microsoft came out with, I think would be a lot better with gaming nowadays. Now, I know that the Xbox, like the Xbox One and the Series X, they do have accessibility options built into the console. Now, I haven't really messed with them much, but I have seen like videos and other things like demonstrating how those accessibility options work. But that is pretty cool. But it, again, it's for people like who are hard of hearing, and have visual impairments. But they do have like custom button mapping. So again, just using this as an example, like, maybe it's easier to have all the controllers mapped like all the buttons and controls mapped to the front, so you don't have to use the triggers. That way you can kind of set the controller down and, use it however, whatever seems fit for you. So yeah, that is one thing too I do commend Microsoft for, is that they've really stepped up the plate and helped people with disabilities enjoy gaming. And it's, having a disability, I'm sure is very difficult, because it's, maybe you can't work, you're on a fixed income, and that's a good thing about Game Pass too on Xbox, going back to them, is you pay that flat fee every month and you got access to a ton of games that you don't have to pay extra for. That is nice. That's another thing that Nintendo and Sony need to work on, is their refund policies. Because let's say maybe you download a game, you have some type of disability that can hamper your enjoyment or your ability to play it. Let's say you put it on and you realize some time in that you just can't play it. You have, because of conditions that are beyond your control. All companies need to have a refund policy specific for that, I think. But yeah, so like I said, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, guys. I don't deal with disability issues like, other people do. So I'm probably just kind of rambling on a little bit. Maybe I don't make much sense, but it was just something on my heart, something I wanted to talk about. And please, everybody, feel free to leave your comments and your thoughts on this down below, because I'd love to hear what you all have to say. And I'll try to interact with the post too. So, but anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, go ahead and leave a like and comment down below. Subscribe if you wish. And as always, remember, Jesus loves you. He's real. I love you too. You all stay safe, and I'll see you next time.